Welcome to another episode of The Scrumptious Woman. And with me, I have this incredibly scrumptious, look at those blue eyes sparkling. She's coming through the screen. Hello, Ashley Morton, all the way from Canada.
Thank you so much for having me, Julia. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to have you on. And it was so funny. You got on an hour before because somehow, I don't know, it was my calendar, your calendar. You got into the calendar twice. I mean, lucky.
I know. I was just so excited. I was on here early.
I love it. We met through Cassie Howard, who's one of the sales queens that I've had on, and just a really fun and honest, straight shooting person. We met through that, and we met through internet, and we've been commenting on each other's posts on Instagram.
Yes.
And just to see your joy come through your pictures, your stories, it's been a real delight looking at that.
Thank you. I feel the same way about you. And I'm so glad we've connected. And I just feel like, we have so much to talk about. I'm so excited.
It's exciting, right? Because I popped on your Instagram, like, oh my God, she's doing a book tour. So tell us, what was this book tour about? I mean, I know, but our listeners don't.
I'll give you a little bit of background on what I've done in my career. So my career was based around being an event and wedding planner. And I did that since 2008. Now, I don't talk about it a whole lot anymore, but it was something that I had done to really establish my business. That was like my first business. I started when I was 21. I just dove into it. I did it in my community. Long story short, I was originally from Ontario, Canada, and I moved out west. I met someone, decided to stay, and had to kind of give up what I thought I was going to do because the east was a little bit different than the west in terms of what I had hoped I was going to do. Ended up staying here in Alberta and started my own business, followed my passion of events and fashion and just all of these things, and started doing community events. Well, while I was doing community events, I discovered I was doing a lot of events that had trade shows. And the trade shows were all these women entrepreneurs that were small business owners or working from home and wanted to share more about what they loved doing. The next thing you know, every year, a couple times a year, I'm doing different events. I was doing a fashion show, and I was doing a bridal show and gathering all the local vendors. What happened was I was working with all these small business owners, and I was starting to use social media back then. Facebook was a thing. Instagram didn't even exist yet. And I just started marketing on there to connect with people. Then people further out started coming to my events, not just in my town, but like a couple hours radius. And they kept saying, how are you using social media? Like, how do you use Facebook to market? And I was like, oh, I can help with that. But what I noticed in all of this was that there was so many women entrepreneurs that were looking for support and help. And back then, coaches weren't a big thing. Like Facebook was just kind of beginning. So it was like this whole new thing. There was some local mentors, but you just didn't hear about it as much. So I started hearing that they were looking for more like, what do they do for marketing in between these events once or twice a year? How do they tell people about what they do? Long story short, I ended up creating a women's conference for women in business, and I decided to bring in some big speakers. We had some celebrity speakers that were on TV here, and we had some local speakers, and we ended up attracting people from all across Canada and the US for this. And I was like, obviously there's a need for this because people are looking for it. That really took off. And the next thing I know, I was coaching on the side, doing all of this while I was still doing all the event planning, but I loved the coaching part of it. So my start really came from social media marketing and helping people learn how to use social media to promote their business. So
I love it. So I used to do events as well, long time ago in Holland. I mean, oh my God, decades ago, right?
yes, exactly. But that was also a thing before the internet and all the social media, events in person. That's where you got your connection and that's where you met people, right?
A little bit different. When you meet people in person, there's just
Yeah.
that energy, and people are like, oh my God, I
Yes.
didn't know you were like this. I'm like, wow.
Exactly. Yes, the in-person is just so different. And I think we learned a lot of that through COVID too, because then people craved it even more after realizing they couldn't have it for that amount of time, right? What I had recognized is as I continued on, I started setting goals. Some of the things that I was really excited for as I listened to a podcast, you may have heard of her, Jenna Kutcher in the US, and She was one of my favorite podcasters. She was one of the first ones I ever listened to. And I always wanted to start my own podcast here in Canada. I remember thinking of that as a goal, but I was still doing like the events full time. And I was like, I don't know where I'm going to fit this in and do the coaching and all the things. But I remember setting it as a goal. This is really, long story short, coming to where the journal came in, because I started this method. I didn't even really realize it was a method. It was just something practice that I started. And I recognized anytime I set a goal, including creating my own conference, I had this method I was using. So when I went to launch my podcast,
You can always teach people the steps that we take.
that's what I realized after a little while was I created this event. The event became an annual event. It was constantly attracting different speakers and different people from all over. And then I launched the podcast in 2019 and it hit the top 15 up there with Jenna Kutcher and Amy Porterfield. And I was like, what's happening in my life? Like, it was just so amazing. And again, it went back to this method I created. So then COVID happened, then everything kind of got paused. But after COVID, I decided to bring my event back. And it was this huge opportunity. And I was thinking about it, but I was kind of easing my way back into it. But I started using the goal setting process again that I had created. And I was like, okay, this method works. I know it works. Let me start thinking about bringing my event back. Now, I should say when COVID happened and events stopped, I stopped doing events for other people because everything froze, right? There was no events happening. So when events started happening again, I actually made a really big decision and I decided to let go of my event planning side of my business and I went full-time coaching. And it was so exciting and I just loved it. And what I decided to do was that I was just going to keep my own event. I wasn't going to do events for anybody else anymore. I was just going to do my own.
Amazing.
When I did that, I went back to the method and I said, okay, I want to bring my event back. What does this look like? And so I'll kind of walk you through the 4-step process of it.
Oh my God, this is gold for our listeners.
This is going to be really fun. I'll share a bit about like what happened with this event because this event kind of like changed my life. So this is where the journal came from as well. So it's born right after this. I went through the steps. So my steps for this method was the first thing you always have to do is visualize. So you can, of course, go and set goals, but until you know, and when I say no, like, I mean, sit and like, if it's meditate on it, if it's, go on Pinterest and daydream about it. We as women are very visual. We need to understand what we're going for. And I feel like in terms of goal setting and manifesting and all of that, we have to start with visualizing because if we can visualize it, then we can make it happen. Like we can create it if we can picture it, right? And so like they say, like there's a dream or a goal in your heart, it's meant for you because you can picture it. It's like to start with the step one is visualizing. And for me, it was bringing this conference back. And the first step was, where would I even have it? And I started picturing, we live near the Rocky Mountains. So I started picturing the beautiful Rocky Mountains. I always wanted to host there. We have a stunning Fairmont property there that is just like luxury and indulgence. And I just started picturing it there. And then I started also picturing as an event planner, you start picturing the experience that your attendees have, right? You start understanding what they're go through. So next thing I did with visualizing was I started picturing how they would walk in, how they would get to the property, what that experience of even just traveling in looked like. But then I started picturing all these women are coming in after COVID. They've barely seen each other. Some may have followed each other on Instagram, and now they're going to be on this property. And this property's kind of like its own like excluded little island in a sense. It's not an actual island, but it feels like it because there's lakes around. I just pictured all these attendees walking around and being like, I know you, or I seen you on Instagram, or I follow you. And I just started visualizing that. And I was like, okay, I'm locking this visualization in. Like, this is what I picture happening. Next step I had was, I was like, who's my keynote speaker? Like, I always bring in a celebrity keynote speaker. First thing I said to myself was, I know who my one-day goal speakers are. So one-day goal speakers are like, Jenna Kutcher. Often do we say one day? One day we're going to travel here. One day we're going to start the business. One day we're going to check off this off our list. We're going to create this. We're going to design this. All the things. We just say that so often in common phrase. And I said it. Like I was saying, I know who, one day I want to work with. One day who I want to bring in. So part of the next step is once I visualized who I wanted, step number 2 is research. So you have to get the information, right? So it can be anything. It could be like a trip. If you're planning a trip, you visualize where you're going, then you have to research what it looks like. You have to figure out the cost, how you're going to get there, what you might have to save for, how long you have to plan. That really is step 2. So I decided I need to research these speakers. I know who some of these one day goal speakers are, but if I'm ever going to get them, doesn't mean right now, but if I get them in the future, I still need to know what to plan for. What does the cost look like? Are they willing to come to Canada? All of the things. March of 2023, I reached out to one of the speakers that I absolutely dreamed of working with and having her come in. And I sent an email to her team. 2 days later, the team wrote back and said, I'm think she would be really interested in this. She doesn't do a lot of events, but I think she would really like yours. Can you send us more information? I spent an entire weekend mapping out every detail of my event, what I've done before, gathered all the pictures. I was just like, okay, I've got to figure this out. So Monday morning, I sent it off. I sent all the details and just it really described what I was also creating. So like that visualization of that event in the mountains, like I explained to you, that's what I really visualized and like explained to her. 2 hours later, I got a personal voice message back from her. And she said, this sounds incredible. I'm in. And that was the amazing Jenna Kutcher. And she came up from the US and joined me at my event. And I had this incredible opportunity to work with her. It was just, I couldn't believe it. Like everything started falling into place. And that's really where I realized I have this method. Like this visualization is step one. The research is step two. Number three is strategy, right? Since she said yes, then I had to build the strategy of the event. Okay, what does that look like? When is this going to happen? All the details now have to fall into place. And they did. And then step four is as you build that strategy, it's obviously taking action. You can't just have strategy and do nothing and hope for the best. You have to go into step four. You have to
It's
take
just
action.
going to fall into my lap or in my hand.
Exactly, right? Could you
What?
imagine? I mean, that sounds lovely, but it's
I'm manifesting, I'm doing my Hail Marys. But
but it's
you hear so much bullshit from people that it's just like,
exactly.
you just gotta let go. You gotta let go of that importance of that like
Exactly.
energy that is like, "Ooh, I need to have it," and still take the next step forward.
You do. Absolutely. You still have to work towards it. Like it's finding that balance, right? Of not just being like, I'm putting it out to the universe and hoping it happens versus like I'm gonna make it happen. But like, right, there's like that fine balance in between of like I still have to take like action on it. Like I still have to do steps that work towards it. Like if I would have never reached out, she would have never even have heard of me. You know what I mean? So I had to take
Mm.
steps to even get towards that. So when I started recognizing this method, I was like, okay, so the journal started coming together that year. And it was a method I'd always used. I had just never actually put it to paper and sharing it. And I started sharing it with my clients and they're like, okay. And I started seeing their goals and dreams coming to life. And I was like, okay, this is like a tool that more people can have now. And then the journal was born, and it was just such like a full circle moment to see it all come together.
That's just, and it's, you said 4 steps. I mean, with some little micro steps in between, obviously, but the easy thing, like to visualize it. And I am terrible at seeing things. I see,
Mm,
I can't, like in meditations, see this, and I'm like snapshot, and it goes to something completely different. I'm like, okay, well, never mind.
yeah.
I'll feel it. For me,
Yeah.
it's like I need to really tap into the emotions. That's where I teach. It's like
Yeah.
every experience has an image, a
Exactly.
thought,
Yeah.
a body sensation, and an emotion.
Exactly.
That for me is visualizing. That's for me is feeling. My business is called Feel Fully You. So it's like feel it, really be in the moment and then see it, smell it, be in it. Like how you said, like how they're all walking in and getting to know each other. You can even see the food they're tasting, the drinks they're drinking. I don't know if they were having like hot cocoa and it was cold or if it was warm, whatever, but just like you can see both sides.
Yep, exactly. I really agree with you with the visualization of not just the picture, but the feeling. Like 100% agreed. It was like I was feeling what their emotions were like when they first came in. Maybe there was people that traveled in by themselves and they had to meet people and they were like, I'll connect with somebody I know on Instagram where like they could connect with who they followed. And then it was like, right into the experience of the event. Like what happens when they walked into the room itself and like what were they experiencing there? How were they welcomed? What were they eating? What were they drinking? Like what were they feeling? What were they sensing? What kind of energy were they feeling from the people that welcomed them, right? Like there was so much to it. And I agree with you. Like visualization is such a big amount of emotions all tied together.
I love what you say. It's like we actually do have to take the action steps. And a lot of people are saying, but stay in your feminine, stay in your flow. It's like, yes, we are staying in our flow. days that were not, constantly thinking about 5,000 things. I mean, I have 4 kids and I was together with a man with 3 children. So we had 7 children. So it was like, like running an army, 7 different everything. Yeah, I spent 9 months in and out of hospitals. So I'm like, okay, that doesn't work either. But it's like, where can you have that vision? Where can you then, approach the hotel or the wherever you were going to have it, right? And I was talking to my daughter today that she wants to lead a retreat in Lebanon, and I led one last year, and I've led quite a few retreats. So I was like, okay, let me walk you through it. You need to do this, and that. Like, oh, mommy, that's overwhelming. I'm like, no, I'll get on a phone call with all of you, and we can create the arc. What did I want to feel? Yeah. People there don't want to spend the night away, but, what are the little things that will have them land there, first of all, like you said, "Oh, this is like coming home." What are the things that they're taking away? Not only the goodie bags, but, what are the memories of that thing? So I love that you put this in a journal.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit more. So you put it in a journal, you publish it, and then?
One of my next big goals from the journal was, so here in Canada, we have a bookstore called Indigo. It initially, there was Chapters, Coles, and then Indigo created and compiled all of them. So there's still different stores that have the different names, but Indigo is like the umbrella.
The big
And
one.
it was a store that I went to. Chapters was the one I went to in my hometown. I remember buying my books when I was 8 and 9. Like I was obsessed. I love reading. I love books. And I remember being there. And so I spend a lot of time when I can, when I go to the city. I love going into Indigo. Indigo has also become more than just a bookstore. It's very cozy and homey, and they have decor and they have stationery. And, as us women entrepreneurs, we love notebooks and we love new pens, and there's nothing better. And they have all of that.
Who doesn't like notebooks and pens and stationery and pretty things?
Exactly, exactly. And they change it by season. So it's just like it's exciting to get new things. And so it's just such a cozy store. It's beautiful.
Right.
And so one of my dreams was to always have my book on a shelf in there. And it was
Oh.
just, again, a 1-day goal. I wasn't sure how that was going to happen. I wasn't officially publishing a physical book yet. It was a journal. I didn't even know what that looked like, but I had put it out there as a 1-day goal. I knew it was something I wanted to do. I visualized it, and then I started doing the research, and I started finding, well, first I got connected with another author, and it was an author that was in there. And so there's 2 steps. If you self-publish, there's a different route that you go versus a publishing house and them doing distribution in there. So I self-published the journal so I could do it and I could have it for my speaking engagements and events and things like that. And I've heard that journals getting published is a lot harder in publishing houses. So totally understood that this was the easier route for self-publishing. I got connected with this author that connected me with Indigo and found out they have a different route for self-publishing. And you can get in contact with the stores that way. And I reached out, and so you have to submit your book and they have to review it and see if they think it would be a fit. The first store reached out and said, "We want you to come in and then do a book signing." I almost fell over. I was like, I thought this was 1 day. I wasn't ready.
A day soon.
It
Wow.
was a lot sooner than 1 day. So it all happened pretty fast, like within 6 months in 2024. It got published, and then I found out that it was going into these stores. And then with the power of Instagram, other stores got tagged. And then I started getting asked to go and do more book signings. So that has been something. Last year, I went on a mini tour and I did some speaking engagements. I did some Indigos and I did some independent bookshops and other stores. I had a blast. I did it on the western side of Canada. And this year I got invited to my hometown in Ontario. I'm going to be going there later this year to do that. And I am so over the moon. That is a pinch me moment to go to my hometown one that I shopped in as a little girl. And that's where I'll be officially ending my tour this year, is in my hometown. Just surreal.
Wow. I just want to take a breath here. So you've come like a beautiful full circle.
Thank you.
From the little girl buying her books there to now, a grown woman going there with her own journal. And I doubt that it's going to stop at the journal. Because
No.
I'm sure there's a book in there with you, because
Yes.
I found something similar. Started with just like a line journal, because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I want just a line journal.
Yeah.
Let me see how I can do that. So I did that, and I would used to give it to my clients, and they're like, oh, this is cool. I've got your branded journal. And then all my methods came through, and what I was telling you about the image, the thought, the body sensation, the emotion. I used to work at a company, a Canadian company called Accelerated Evolution Academy, and it's really to help through trauma. And I used to coach
Oh,
and be a trainer
yeah.
for coaches and therapists. So a lot of those practices I put into my journal.
I love.
And I self-published as well, but I wanted it matte and I wanted it dark and I wanted it colored. So, it was like, oh shit, I want it beautiful too.
Yep.
So not just the cheapest one. But it's given me such joy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then not last year, but the year before. So not this Christmas, the Christmas before, the New Year's, the 31st of
Okay.
December. I woke up at 5 o'clock, got my computer out, and everything just started like
Oh,
I'm writing and I'm writing. Like I don't even know how to do poetry, but I'm writing all these
oh
poems. My twin daughters are there with me, and they really inspired me because
my-
the way that they've shown up and
yeah.
half Palestinian, half Dutch, half quarter Palestinian, quarter Lebanese, and half Dutch. So a lot has been happening for them. A lot of their friends have kind of like fallen away. So I just saw how beautiful they are in accepting that and still being that part of themselves. So these poems just came through. So I finished them in one day. It took me probably another 3 weeks to edit them. At
Oh
the
my
end of January, they were published. And then I forgot about them. Then I forgot about the book until this year. I'm like, "Oh my god, that's actually really good." And
goodness.
now I use it as, kind of
Uh,
like an oracle. One day I just, like, open it, I'm like, "Oh, this I needed to hear this."
So beautiful. Oh, I love that. That's amazing. I love when you're in flow like that, right? When it just comes out so naturally and you're like, wow, this is something so beautiful that was just obviously sitting on your heart and ready to come out.
Completely. So I'm just
Mm.
waiting what your next one is going to be. So to wrap this up, because this is a beautiful ending, if the listeners are listening now, what are the 3 things that you would say, "Don't wait and do them right now"?
Don't need to do them right now. I would say one of the biggest things is give yourself some time to really visualize and like daydream. We don't give ourselves enough time to daydream. I feel like it's something we get so stuck in and not necessarily stuck, but we get really involved in our day to day, right? And are just like the hustle and bustle and, just the schedules, especially, as women when we are caretakers and we have so much on our plates where we're looking out for others, we're constantly worrying about others, and we often put ourselves on back burners. So that's where I feel like the 1 day goal method is why I say 1 day. And that's really where the phrase came from, is because we often say it in our regular conversation. Like somebody will ask us, oh, like, what do you want to do? Like, how's your house? Or like, have you traveled here? And you're like, oh, yeah, 1 day I hope to go there. 1 day I hope to start the business. Or 1 day I hope to start this hobby or do something for me. And like I hear my best friend, she has 3 boys that are younger. And even just for her to go take a bath, she's like, oh, hopefully soon, like 1 day soon, I hope. I'm like, come on, we have to put
Take
ourselves
the
first.
time.
So I think it starts again coming back and allowing yourself to daydream and have that visualization process. And it doesn't have to be a process where it's like you have to time it and you can only do it for 5 minutes and it has to look like this, but just give yourself space to do that. Even if it means, sitting outside now that it's, finally spring and we're slowly moving into summer, kind of. We'll say, depends
I
where you are
Here
right
in the
now in the
UK,
world,
it was hailing today.
right? You just never know. But maybe you're able, wherever you are, to like sit outside and just like listen to the birds for a bit and allow yourself to daydream and think about, when you think of, what you've said, 1 day I'll do this. Ask yourself what it would look like if you could do it this year. What would change if you were told I could do, like, by the end of this year you could do this? What would that look like? Would that suddenly give you a spring in your step? Would that suddenly like light you up and excite you? What does it feel like when you think of that? So like let's just say as an example, it's a trip. Maybe you want to go somewhere that you've never been before. What does that look like? Where would you go? What city would you stay in? How would you get there? Would you be traveling by plane? Would you be going on a cruise? Right? Like would you be flying in? Start picturing all of those things of what that could come into, and how long would you go for? Would it be a week? Would it be 3 weeks? What does that look like? Who would you go with? And if you start asking yourselves those questions, I feel like as soon as you start visualizing it, that's when the first steps really start to happen because now you're starting to feel those emotions, which I know you are the queen of. And I feel like when you have those emotions in your body, then it's starting to come to fruition. You're already starting to put that out to the universe because now you're
Oh,
picturing it and you're visualizing it and you're feeling it. So then you start maybe researching it. Maybe you start dabbling in plane ticket prices or you start looking at Airbnbs and just picturing where you want to go. There is nothing more powerful than just going and getting some ideas. I do this so often where I just print off photos of places, like things I want to do or where I want to go or things I want to buy or something I want to create. And I tell you, as soon as this happens, not long after, things just start falling into place. Even if I'm not, maybe obsessing or looking at it every day, but it's something I think of and, I've just kind of put it down to paper. It just starts to happen slowly. And then because it's, say it's on paper, you printed something out, it's on our mind more. And then suddenly, when it's on our mind more, then we start kind of looking, like I said, researching and then maybe figuring out what costs are of things. And we just kind of figure out when that might work for us. And it doesn't mean that anything has to happen overnight because oftentimes these goals feel really big. So if it comes down to finances, maybe like a $20,000 trip isn't in the budget right now, but now you know how much it costs and you could slowly start putting money aside. And maybe that's like a 2-year goal, but it's no longer a 1-day goal. It's no longer, I'll wait till I'm 60, 70, 80, whenever kind of goal. Maybe it'll happen in a few years. Maybe you'll mention it to someone else and they say, I'll do it with you. What if I came with you? Or what if
sure.
I
We've got an apartment there, or we've got
exactly
a house that's empty. Do you want to house it?
exactly right? Like things can happen so magically. May I share one more quick story about how this kind of happened
Absolutely.
as well? So I said this out loud about a trip I always wanted to go on back 2 years ago. It was 2024. And at the beginning of that year, I had come on and said, so a bit of a backstory. I was going through a separation and I hadn't traveled as much as like my partner and I hadn't traveled. I really loved travel. And anytime I traveled, I used the reason of work as an excuse. I just wanted to go some different places. One of my goals was Hawaii. I had this bucket list of going to Hawaii one day. I love the pictures and the videos I see of it. And I was just really wanting to go there. So I often joke, I made the mistake, not really a mistake, of saying it out loud to my Instagram community. I have one of the most supportive Instagram communities in the world. I just love my community so much. And so I said out loud on a story, I would really love to go to Hawaii one day. Like, does anybody have any like tips or have you been? Which island? Like, just tell me about Hawaii. I want to know more about it. And I had someone go, well, what if you hold one of your events there? I was like, well, don't give me ideas, not really good ideas like this. And so I said, well, if I did an event, would anybody want to go? And I had over 100 people that messaged me and said, yep, just let us know when. I was like,
Okay, let me just make a link for payment for a deposit, and then we'll go. I'll take it from there.
I had a client that was a travel agent who said, let me get you some locations and I'll get you some details. I had a list of people on a wait list of wanting the links as soon as I had it ready. And about a month later, a venue said, we'd love to host you so you can come see it. And they hosted us for free. We just had to pay for our flights. 4 months later, I flew to Hawaii to go visit the site and I was just in my glory. 6 months after that, I held my first retreat in Hawaii and I have since hosted two.
So beautiful. So I'm a hypnotherapist and EMDR therapist, so I work with the brain a lot. So what you're talking about, reticular uh, articulating system, the RAS, right? So it's when you're pregnant, all of a sudden you see pregnant people everywhere. When you're about to buy a red cars appear everywhere. Yeah, it's just what happens. So this is really the beauty about visualization and about putting attention on it is all of a sudden it starts showing up and you're like, here you go. And this is why people call it manifestation, but it's actually something that our brain does. I like to call it like almost like an antenna. And it also kind of like pulsated out energy and then that pulls it in. It's kind of all of a sudden people get attracted to you. It's like there's something about you. I was meant to talk to you. I mean, I get this on the street all the time. And they're like, and I go to like in-person events and people come near me and I'm like, oh, may I? What's in your back? What's there? And she's like, I've had a pain there for 12 years. I'm like, okay, well, can I just move it a little bit? And I move and she's like, what did you do? I'm like, I don't know. I just saw it there. But this is what it is, right? We attract that then to people
Yeah.
and we notice it. And all of a sudden that brain just like, oh, this is available. That's available. It's like taking the blinkers off. All of a sudden I have side vision. I can see further than just that tunnel vision.
Absolutely. It really opens things up more than you ever even realize. And like, again, I think as soon as you allow yourself to daydream, visualize what this could look like, an experience that you're looking for, just like you said, it opens your eyes to so much that you may have not even noticed because you're like, okay, so let's just say, I don't know, maybe you want to take a trip to Ireland and you're just like, yeah, one day. But as soon as you say it to somebody, then suddenly you see an ad for it and then somebody else is talking about it. And then, right? It's like, it's just amazing when you allow yourself to
And
open up
these
to
days
it.
with social media also, they're listening. I was talking to my partner, Alex, about my son going from Dubai to
Yeah.
Bali on my
Right.
birthday day tomorrow. And everything keeps popping up in his feed for like Bali, Dubai trips. I'm like,
Amazing.
I'm open,
Right? Exactly. Well,
very open to it. Thank you very much.
oh my God.
I was laughing because we kind of fudged up the time and I was there in my bath because it
Yeah.
had been so cold. And this
Yeah.
morning I was like, you need to go and do some exercise. I don't care how much stuff is coming down through you and how much you want to create. Go and
Yeah.
do some exercise. So I went, did my Pilates, got some shopping, did some
Oh,
Lebanese cooking. And then I'm like, I'm cold. I actually just need some of my own movement, my one touch. For me, I call it one touch, which is like, how can I touch myself today? How for that? How can I physically, like, even just rub my hands together? That breath, that movement comes back in. So I just had to laugh at all these reminders. And then you come on and talk about this.
it's amazing. One thing that I have noticed too, when I talk about one day goals in the past, what I've also noticed is that when I share these stories, when I talk about going to Hawaii, when I talk about the conference, I also have heard from women saying that all sounds perfect, but it sounds like the highlight reel on Instagram. And what does that look like in terms of when there's still other stuff? Like, it doesn't mean our whole lives stop when we start visualizing and daydreaming. It means that we just go all in and then we put the blinders back on and we just focus. It still needs,
Only that. Tunnel vision to only
right?
that.
Exactly. That's what we're doing now. That can happen. And I think sometimes when we see what other people are doing and, even when we're going through things in life, it doesn't mean our life's always going to be perfect and just like exactly planned out how we imagine. And, things are going to happen. And so one thing I just want to touch on that feels really important is to give yourself grace in all of this and don't expect things to happen overnight. Yes, sometimes things move really quickly and it does start coming to fruition, but also give yourself grace in understanding that, the timing will happen when it's meant to, and that it's putting it out there, it's getting the ideas, it's visualizing and starting to take the action. It doesn't always mean it happens when it's planned. But one of the things I just want to share is when I was planning that big conference and Jenna said yes to coming, that's when I decided to also initiate my separation. So I was going through things behind the scene and I wasn't ready to talk about it yet. So I wasn't, and I'm usually quite about everything going on in my life, but that was one thing that was going on behind the scenes. And I just wasn't sharing because I wasn't ready. My ex wasn't ready for me to talk about it publicly because I'm more public than he is.
Most of the time, us women are.
Right?
My
Exactly.
ex-husband's like, "You're plastering me all over Facebook and Instagram." I'm like, yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
we're good friends.
I knew it was going to be part of my story one day because I know that there are a lot of other women going through these kinds of things, but I just knew at that time it wasn't the right time. But I remember having someone ask me when I was speaking at events saying, like, this all sounds great, but what happens when like life is happening? Like, has anything bad ever happened to you? And I was like, it's a really good point because I think that sometimes we also tend to put the bad things happening or the not so great things behind, right? We don't want to talk about that. It's not lighting us up to like, I'm not excited to jump on Instagram and say, I'm so excited I'm going through a separation right now. Like, it's just, that's not realistic. So I just want to point that out because even when I was going through Hawaii, that's when that happened. You may have seen it on my Instagram. My dad had a really bad accident and it took me out for a while, but Hawaii had said yes and asked about hosting us a month before my dad's accident happened. So actually I had to pause it for a little bit before I could go and see the site because my dad was in the hospital hospital and I didn't know what was happening. And then later that year, my dog passed away. So it was a lot at once. And it was really funny because I have this amazing friend of mine that is a medium, psychic, astrologer. And she's like, you just really like to get everything done at once. Hey, like clear everything up from the past and like just moving on next chapter. I was like, apparently. But it wasn't just like all hunky dory and all happy through that whole year of
Never ending.
even, achieving Hawaii. I still had a lot of hard things happening behind the scenes. I was vocal in public about my dad's accident. My community really went through that with me. But I think it's just important to remember that life is going to happen in between and there is the highlight reels, but there's also still like real life happening and it's giving ourselves grace through all that. So I just wanted to mention it because sometimes you hear somebody that's doing all the things and, achieving all the goals and you're like, okay, but how am I supposed to do that when I still have like real life happening or, I'm going through different things. So
This is what I love, that you're being really honest about this. I've always been massively honest about it, and I've started writing on Substack about it. And then
Mhm.
I wrote about, my near death
Yeah,
experience, what it then gave my
exactly.
sister and the people that I helped pass over. I call it following the breadcrumbs. All we can do in life is follow the breadcrumbs. And if that means leaving your marriage and splitting up, and
Yeah.
it's that next action step, right? It's that one step that's taking you further. The action step number 4, take it. And it might not be comfortable, and you might think that you're falling off a cliff.
Yep.
Oh, that you'll probably resonate with on Instagram and on Facebook and on TikTok
Mhm.
and whatever social media you use are the ones that are honest about that. Don't just have everything looking so perfect,
Exactly.
because, we're all going through ups and downs. And, 3 of my kids are in war zones. I'm like, whoa. Yay, this is fun. I obviously decided to get on a roller coaster of life. But hey, my soul apparently chose this.
I think that's the thing. And I think when it comes to also talking about those real life experiences, it also allows other people to relate, right? And feel connected to you even more. Because I think once I started sharing more vulnerably, even on like my Instagram, people are like, I've gone through that. Like the stories when my dad's accident happened, I had so many people reaching out saying, like, I went through this with my dad or my mom or my spouse. And like all because he had a traumatic brain injury. So it just opened up conversations for so many people. I had one woman that messaged me and said, I've never talked about it publicly, but my husband went through this. And she's like, you're the first person I've really talked to about it. And I was like, wow. But this is also what creates community. I was going through that hard stuff with my dad's accident and also talking about Hawaii. And my community was so incredibly supportive of both. They were there for the good and the bad. They were there for, getting excited for me, but also supporting me and also reaching out and connecting. And I think that's a good reminder for everybody that life can still happen as we're working towards these big things or what
We're
feels
life.
right. Yeah, we're lifing and we're doing it together. The last thing I want to say is do it in community as well. Like if you can take and share your goals in what feels like a safe community,
Yeah.
find a safe community for your goals. That's a whole other topic that we can chat about another time. But when we have these big goals and dreams, sometimes I've learned, even just in my years of teaching this, is that sometimes it's not safe to share those goals at home. And finding somewhere that is safe to talk about it is like key. Also, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. I love talking about goals if you feel like you don't have someone to talk to, but find someone where you can feel safe in sharing these goals, because sometimes what happens is we have these goals and we don't have the support to do it. So that's why they become one day and they get set in the back burner. It's not just because you don't feel like you could do it or you don't want to do it, but you may not know how or feel like you have the support to do it. And sometimes we just need that too.
That's such a good point. Beautiful. Now, Ashley, how do people get in touch with you? I know everything will be in the show notes, but just tell us probably your Instagram, right? Because
Yeah,
that's where you sound like you're most active.
Instagram is my favorite place to hang out. I always say that. Over at Instagram, it's the Ashley Morton, and I'll of course share the links with you as well. But yeah, Instagram is my favorite place to hang out. So please come, feel free to send DMs. That's my favorite thing, to just stay connected and hear about goals. Like if you have a goal in mind, even just saying it out loud to me, even as a complete stranger, can sometimes feel just like exhilarating. Just to be like, this is something I want to do one day. Like, I don't know yet. Now, one of my clients often tells other people, be careful what you say to Ashley, because if you say it out loud, it might start happening.
There you go. Well, one day we will
Right?
meet in person. I get to hug you.
I would love that. Sounds like it's something we need to make happen.
It's definitely going to happen. It has been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.